I think Irv's very emotional. He didn't always put business as a priority.
She's never gonna say she was in love with me. She's never gonna say we was together.
Welcome to Unsolicited, where I make videos about things that nobody asked me to. Back in the early 2000s, the record label Murda Inc. was dominating hip-hop and R&B. Murda Inc. gave us Ja Rule, Vita, Lloyd, Christina Milian, Ashanti, all these amazing artists recording under the CEO, Irv Gotti. Murda Inc. had the charts in a chokehold with all their hit records until 2003, when their offices were raided by the feds under suspicion for money laundering. When everything hit the fan, Irv felt that certain people weren't loyal, specifically Ashanti, and to this day, Irv and Ashanti have beef because they don't see eye to eye with what happened back in the day. But is Irv really mad because he felt like Ashanti wasn't loyal to Murda Inc., or because he feels she wasn't loyal to him because they allegedly had a romantic relationship? Whatever it is, Irv is still talking trash about Ashanti to this day, even though it's been 2 whole decades. He's giving very much cornball, goofy goober. Let's talk about it. Starting from the beginning, Ashanti was born and raised in Long Island, New York. When her mother discovered that she could sing around age 12, she started managing her career by putting her in local talent shows, trying to get her a record deal. At 14, she landed a deal with Jive Records, but left the label after a year and later got signed to Epic Records at 17. She moved to Atlanta to work with Epic, but the person who signed her was let go, and all of the artists he had signed were also dismissed with him. So she went back home, finished high school. Her senior year, she had the opportunity to run track at Hampton University, but decided not to go so that she could pursue her career full time. She started recording demos in New York and was hustling trying to get a deal. She met Chris Gotti, who is the brother of Irv Gotti, the CEO of Murda Inc. Some backstory on Irv Gotti: he's from Queens. He came up by DJing and producing tracks for local artists. On the come up, he was producing tracks and DJing for people like DMX, Jay-Z. He was also managing a group called Cash Money Click that Ja Rule was in. A Def Jam executive was interested in signing only Ja Rule from the group, and he offered Irv an A&R position, which allowed him to sign artists, and he brought Ja Rule on with him. As an A&R, Irv convinced Def Jam to sign DMX, and he also had a hand in the eventual signing of Jay-Z to the label. After all of his success, Def Jam offered Irv the opportunity to form his own label under them, which he did, and he called it Murda Inc. with Ja Rule as the main artist. They had a lot of success. Ja's first album went platinum, and his second album was also a huge success. This is the album that gave us Put It On featuring Vita. So Murda Inc. was poppin' at the time. And as I told you before, Ashanti met Irv's brother Chris. Chris saw something in Ashanti and knew that she could be a star, so he tried multiple times to get Irv to listen to her music. But Irv had tunnel vision and was focused on Ja Rule because he was the most successful artist on the label at the time. However, once Chris was able to get Irv to listen to Ashanti, he was impressed, and when they got in the studio together, they made magic. Not only did Ashanti have an amazing voice, but she was also an amazing writer.
They used to think that I had a ghostwriter. No one believed that I was writing my records. So they used to make me come into the studio and write in front of them, because I used to like to take my stuff home and write in my little basement. And once he found a respect for me, like, yo, she wrote that, Bon Bon wrote that. It was like, wow. And then we kind of would just always feed off of each other.
Ashanti was such an amazing writer that Irv had her writing songs for other artists that the label was working with, like Jennifer Lopez. Ashanti was heavily involved in the creation of J-Lo's hit songs, I'm Real and Ain't It Funny. And when her vocals from the reference track made it into the released version, she wasn't credited.
I demoed the record for her. That was way back. That was before I was signed to Murda Inc. And they kept my hook. And, you know, they kept some of the backgrounds and ad-libs and stuff like that. And it was funny. It was a bittersweet because I was really excited because it was J-Lo. You know what I mean? But I was so mad at Irv because I was like, you know I wanted that record.
Irv even had the nerve to try to convince Ashanti to give another record that she loved to J-Lo, but Ashanti had to put her foot down.
Is Rescue, which was on my first album.
Okay.
I remember at the time, the CEO of my label was trying to make me give it to J-Lo. And we had like a fight because I was like, no, I already gave a record that I love to J-Lo.
Nonetheless, Ashanti still went on to be a megastar. She started out doing features for rappers on songs like How We Roll and What's Love. Her feature on Ja Rule's Always on Time was a huge success, leading Irv to sign her to the label under her own contract. Her first single, Foolish, was #1 on the charts. Her debut album premiered at #1. It had the biggest first week sales for a female artist ever at the time. It sold 1 million copies in a month. She was the first artist since the Beatles to have 3 singles on the top 10 charts at the same time. She won a Grammy for Best R&B Album, 8 Billboards, and 2 AMAs. Things were going amazing for her. She even got the key to her hometown, Glen Cove, and they named May 3rd, 2002 Ashanti Douglas Day. Not only was Ashanti successful, but Murda Inc. as a whole was dominating the industry. They were working with top artists, producing hits, making a ton of money. Everything Murda Inc. touched turned to gold, until everything went left in 2003.
Murda Inc.'s Irv Gotti is the man with the Midas touch.
It's 2002.
Everything that I'm touching is selling millions of units.
I was on top of the world and seemed like the world from the top of that mountain when men got knocked off.
In January of 2003, the Murda Inc. offices were raided by the feds. They were looking for any evidence to connect Murda Inc. to Kenneth McGriff. Kenneth McGriff, known as Supreme, was a convicted drug lord. He was selling that cocaína in the 80s, got arrested, and was released in 1994. After he was released, he started a friendship with Murda Inc., and the feds thought that Supreme was using Murda Inc. as a means for money laundering and drug trafficking. The feds had been investigating the situation for some time before the raid. There was a $500,000 transfer from Def Jam, the parent label of Murda Inc., to Supreme's production company, which looked very suspicious to 5-0 and prompted the raid. During the raid, they took documents, computers, they even raided Chris and Irv's homes. Chris and Irv were accused of money laundering and they pleaded not guilty, obviously. The raid started the decline of Murda Inc. Irv and Chris had to go through an entire trial and Irv spent $10 million on legal fees. Murda Inc., which was renamed The Inc., started to go downhill. Sales were down, Def Jam dropped them, nobody wanted to work with them or be associated with them, and Ashanti also lost opportunities from being guilty by association.
Being a part of a record label that was federally indicted, you know, and having associated with that and everything that came along with the extraness that I was a part of, you know, it affected it. Everything that happened that led up to the indictment, and that it was a black cloud for a long time. You know, you become guilty by association. I was like, I ain't got nothing to do with this.
Right.
Why is all of these sponsors pulling out of my you know what I'm saying? Like, it was a lot. There were so many deals and like things were just doing this. There were so many huge partnerships that were like on the come up right around that time. And everyone is like, we love you, but we're gonna have to can't do this right now. Yeah, exactly. We're gonna have to wait until this settles.
Irv and Chris were eventually acquitted after undergoing a month-long trial, but the damage was already done and nothing was the same.
They took basically everything from me, the deal and my label. And it kind of put a black cloud over my head where nobody really wanted to mess with me.
The legal drama is what caused the fallout between Irv and Ashanti. According to Irv, Ashanti ran like a cockroach when the feds came around and he felt that she wasn't loyal. But Ashanti has a different version of that story.
I'm not saying it is braggadocious. It's real. I put her on. We put her on. So for her to say, I don't want to do this no more, I don't respect it. That shit cut deep.
Irv always says, I'm disloyal, you know, and I didn't ride out. And I didn't want to throw up the M's. You know what I'm saying?
During the trial?
Yeah. And I felt like that was so one-sided because, first of all, it wasn't true. You know, I was shooting John Tucker Must Die in Canada, and it specifically said in my contract, you cannot leave. I flew back and forth like 4 or 5 times just to go to the trial. I rolled till the wheels fell off, the car was on fire, the windshield was out, the muffler fell off. Like, what are you talking about?
Even if Ashanti did run, I wouldn't blame her because my black self surely would have Usain Bolt did. She running in a track star out of there with the quickness. Because what looked like going to jail for y'all. Ashanti and Irv don't see eye to eye with what happened, but this is definitely not the only reason they have beef.
I think Irv's very emotional. He didn't always put business as a priority.
According to Irv, he and Ashanti had a romantic relationship while he was separated but still legally married to his wife. Ashanti heavily denies that this relationship ever happened and Irv doesn't like that.
Were you and Irv really lovers?
Absolutely not.
We tried to do the Murda Inc. shit. That was like an olive branch. I ain't never with that. I ain't doing no Murda Inc. shit. But she's never gonna do that because she's never gonna say she was in love with me. She's never gonna say we was together.
Ashanti has said that Irv is very emotional, and I think that the root of the beef is not the fact that she wasn't loyal to Murda Inc., is the fact that she wasn't loyal to him. And Irv has always had a strange possessiveness over Ashanti. Back in the day, people would call to work with Ashanti and Irv would shut them down. It was so bad that people actually thought that Ashanti was a diva because Irv made her seem so untouchable.
You know, so I think what Irv was doing, he was trying to carry the whole, my artists are on a pedestal and we this.
Now, there was a period of time when they said you and Keisha Cole didn't get along, but then y'all did something together. Was there ever any friction between you two, or was that a rumor?
She had reached out to Irv to do a record together with me, like a full album, and I never knew about it. And I don't know what Irv said to her, but it was something to the extent of,
You ain't on her level. Knock it off, Keisha. That's what you told her.
I mean, look, I don't know what was said, but she took it away. You know what I mean? And I was like, damn, that's messed up because I never even knew.
He even refused to let Nelly, who Ashanti ended up dating for almost a decade, use her picture in a music video.
He had put her in a video. It was that country video. I think he put Ciara in it. But at first it was Ashanti in it. So he had called me because, you know, she's my artist. And I was like, remove her from that video, dog.
But the possessiveness didn't end when they stopped working together, because to this day, Irv still owns Ashanti's masters.
Listen, let's speak on the masters. I know that's gonna come up. I made those Ashanti records.
Can you rock with me?
Oh, I made those records. She wrote them, but she wrote them with the help of me telling her what to write. I helped make those records.
Right.
So I own them.
Because of this, Ashanti is currently in the process of re-recording her music so that she can have complete ownership.
So break down for people that don't know, why are you re-recording your first album?
With my album being 20 years old in April, obviously it makes sense for me to go in and re-record so that I can collect my coins. You know what I'm saying? So it's not necessarily changing the vibe, but kind of just injecting something new sonically into it, and maybe I might put a few features on there, you know, sauce it up a little bit.
You know when she be on the shows and she's like, I'm gonna spritz it up and jazz it up. Is this the camera?
Yes.
Ashanti, you cannot spritz it up, you cannot jazz it up. The minute you put some spritzy and jazz it up, it's not a cover. So when it's not a cover, now it has to come back to me to clear it. Let me just give you the answer now. No!
I think after all these years, Irv loves that he still has a level of control over her, but it's been 2 decades. Like, it's getting obsessed and sick the way he continues to talk about her any chance that he gets.
That don't mean because at 50 years old, this is corny to me.
Do goofy shit over the girl that you like a lot.
Not
or
at 50
over the girl
and
that
20
you love.
years later?
No, yes.
Not me. I've never done that.
Well,
If she don't want to claim you, then she don't have to. Goofy. Under his evil mastermind vibe, he really is probably just hurt and needs to heal, or he's just a businessman, which I think is probably more likely. There's a Murda Inc. documentary coming out in the near future, and Irv is probably just trying to build up the buzz, especially since Ashanti has declined to be a part of it.
When we did the doc, we tried to get Ashanti 3 different times. She turned it down each and every time.
I will never be able to not love and appreciate everything that I've done with Murda Inc. Always my family. You know, we made history together. We will always be connected.
I think it would be amazing if one day they could get together and hash everything out, because Murda Inc. was a huge success and the whole crew made magic together. But I don't think that's ever gonna happen. Anyways, that's it. That's the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, all the things that YouTubers be telling people to do, and I'll see you next time. Bye!